These new Zendikar Commander decks have some real cards. They're not messing around. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. I hope you're having a better day than me. My dental issues have reappeared like a demon summoned from the abyss, inhabiting my mouth, slowly driving me into madness. You can already see it with what's going on in this video. So if you like me and you want me to survive, go buy some of my shirts or something. Help me get some money to pay these teeth bandits. They're gonna pull all the teeth out of my head. Now, let's talk about the magic card that's on the screen. It's called Trove Warden, and my Trove is my teeth. Help me! So, Trove Warden is 2 white and 2 for a 3/4 cat beast with vigilance, all right? It's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, exile target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. Now, admittedly, when you read that part at first, you go, wait, what? Why would I want to remove anything from my graveyard? How does that benefit me? Well, here is how it works. When the Trove Warden goes, you get to put each permanent that was exiled with it into the battlefield under your control. What? Wait, hold on. This is such confusing wording. I just want to stop for a moment and acknowledge this card has some really weird wording, okay? Because you're exiling a permanent from your graveyard. How could something that's not yours get into your graveyard? Do you know what I mean? Like, the second ability says, put each permanent that was exiled by the Trove Warden under the control of that card's owner. How do you end up with cards that you are not the owner of in your graveyard? I read this card before and I didn't catch that part. And my brain went, wait, why? What? Are there going to be cards that you can somehow get your opponent's cards in your graveyard now? Is something even weirder coming down the pike, or is this just a bizarre wording for a card? Either way, Trove Warden seems pretty solid overall. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem super busted or anything, but it does seem like a good way to recover from getting hammered early game. Like, if you have a bunch of stuff that's gotten wiped, right? Because these are Commander cards we're dealing with, and Commander has tons and tons of board wipe action. So I imagine, even though I don't really play Commander, that you end up with a ton of broken toys in your graveyard, right? So this guy not only hits creatures, but any permanents that are 3 or less. So it feels like over time, or I guess right away, depending on your strategy, if you have a deck that slams a bunch of lands into play in one turn, then you can turbo load them up in one turn. And if not, it does feel like a nice way of recovering stuff from your graveyard. And in a way, it's got kind of a like stay away from me vibe in terms of once you've exiled a bunch of permanents with it, is somebody really going to want to block it? Or are they just going to like, you know what, I'm not going to block that, or I'm not going to swing into that, right? It adds an extra dimension to the creature that takes it just beyond its 3/4 body. The artwork is pretty funky. You've got a Felidar with these crazy glowing golden horns flattened down to his forehead. That tail is intense. It actually kind of feels like a crab pincher. You know what I mean? But it's got all these like little rigid spikes in it, man. That tail looks like something else. And it's just stalking down this random tree branch. So, I mean, overall, not too shabby a card. This is the kind of card that I would rock in my cube. And it's interesting to see the style and power level that they're aiming for with these Commander decks, right? Because remember, these aren't your standard issue Commander decks that are, I don't have the example one here beside me, but the Commander decks that they normally release have a lot of rares and a bunch of crazy power to entice you, but these are a lower price point style Commander decks, so the cards aren't going to be as like, ba-bam, but they're still interesting. The next one we have to talk about is the Social Distancing Sphinx, otherwise known as Enigma Thief. When I first looked at the artwork, first thing I thought was, I'm like, yo, is that guy, he's wearing a face mask. What what? And then my brain went, yeah, remember before what happened in the world and you would see something like that? What, when somebody had their face covered like this before, did you used to think? Oh yeah, it was like old-timey bandits, right? Like, hey, give me the gold doubloons, I'm robbing this here train. You know, that kind of a scenario. So that's what they were going with, I assume, with this artwork, right? But it is funny, because nowadays you think he's just like, I'm wearing the mask and I'm flying away from people. He's flying away with clearly an object that he is like, at least temporarily stolen, right? That's the, you know what, I'm getting ahead of myself because of the mask. I'm already talking about the flavor of the card when we should be talking about the mechanics of the card. So 2 blue and 5 for a 5/5 flyer with Prowl. Now that's a really, really interesting thing to see, okay? Because Prowl is an ability that originally showed up in the Lorwyn block, and it was for rogues specifically. So we see that with this new, like the new paradigm that they're setting up for at least the next year, we're going to see a heavy emphasis on rogues and clerics and things like that. Now, certain creature types have abilities that really help to define them. You know what I mean? Like clerics will be about life gain or healing. Very, very straightforward. Rogues don't have that same kind of clear-cut mechanical identity. And so it seems like rogues are being given a mishmash now of abilities, right? They're bringing Prowl back, which makes perfect sense. And also, you've got abilities like rogues are now turning into mill bots. Like we've seen, there are a number of black mill rogues. So we've got things like card draw kind of being attributed to rogue creatures. We've got mill, we've got Prowl. So while they don't have one really like tied together mechanism, we do have a bunch that come together to really give you the flavor of being like a rogue. You know what I mean? They all have different aspects that make it feel like they're stealing from you. Or not from you, but for you, right? I mean, how many rogues do you really want to bring in they're going to take from you unless you have some special plan? So this guy's, like I said, 7 mana for a 5/5 flyer. Prowl for 4, which means you can actually just cast him for 4 if you've dealt combat damage to a player with either a Sphinx or a Rogue. Now that is funky, you know what I mean? So you can put this in a Rogue deck, you can put it in a Sphinx deck, I really like that. The Enigma Thief, when it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, return up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls to its owner's hand. So this thing basically bounces a non-land permanent, which is really funny when you think of the perspective of him being the social distancing Sphinx. He like grabs something from you and then he's like, oh, has this been sanitized? And he just throws it like, no, and you've got to go and retrieve it. Like, these stupid Sphinxes. I'm tired of your nonsense. So, I mean, overall, it's an interesting card. It bounces permanents. Now, admittedly, it does say for each opponent. So in a multiplayer game, this becomes considerably more powerful. He's like, I'll take one of these from you, and I'll take that from you, and that from you. That's not too shabby overall. In a one-on-one match, if you can cast this guy for 4, you're going to be laughing. You get a 5/5 flyer while also bouncing one of your opponent's guys. I mean, if you can play this dude for his Prowl cost, he's more like a Tempo Thief than an Enigma Thief, right? But an Enigma Thief is a cool idea too. The idea of a Sphinx, like Sphinxes normally are like, bring me a riddle I have never heard, or solve my riddle. Knowledge, like they're knowledge-based. This concept is more like, this Sphinx takes things that it wants to understand, quickly understands them because it's a Sphinx and can unravel the secrets of the world, and then it just discards it. Now, like, I want to understand the secrets of this trinket. Oh, okay, it's a hoopity jupe. Throws it away. That's the kind of vibe, you know? And it looks like he's already flying up to dizzying heights. Oh, hold on. Let me wet my whistle. Gotta keep that mouth wet to do what I'm doing here. Sounds so awful. All right, let's move on to the next card. Whispersteel Dagger. 1 black and 2 for a piece of equipment that says equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a creature spell from that player's graveyard this turn. and you may spend mana as though were mana of any color to cast that spell. And it equips for 3. So it costs 6 mana just to get this dagger going, right? And you obviously, unlike a lot of equipment from Magic's past, it's color aligned specifically to black. So overall, for 6 mana, you're going to get a +2 bump to a creature, but obviously the big draw on this is when you hit a player with it, you get to reanimate something from his graveyard. And from a flavor perspective, this is really, really, really cool. The idea of a magical dagger where the only thing that like triggers this dagger essentially is to be coated in the blood of an extremely potent magical being, otherwise known as a planeswalker. Planeswalkers are the strongest beings in the multiverse, hands down, and that's us, right? So you've got this dagger that needs to be bathed in planeswalker blood, but once it is, it can take that power that's infused in that blood and convert it into sort of like necrotic necromancer magic. You can see like this dagger has the blood kind of boiling off of it. It feels like turning into this necromantic energy smoke. And to me, the idea behind it is if while this blade is still in the process of boiling this blood off and letting this noxious vapor come off, if you drive that blade or even just nick a corpse with it, you reanimate it under your control. And it doesn't matter if it's the type of beast that would normally never come to you. It's basically like all you have to do is jam this blade somehow into that body, and then you can infuse mana into it. It doesn't matter if you're trying to bring something that's even the opposite of the energies that you're using. A mono black player could use this to bring an angel, like essentially a zombified angel, but not even really a zombified angel because this doesn't turn the creature type into a zombie. So it could be something akin to genuine resurrection. And think about the mental toil, like the mental toll, I should say, that would take on an angel. Imagine you were an angel summoned up to fight against the forces of evil. And not only were you laid low in battle, you weren't able to accomplish your goal, but you find yourself brought back to the battlefield. And unlike previous times where it's white, like energy infusing into you and bringing you back something that's basically in harmony with your existence, instead it's anathema to you. It's the coursing, gross, disgusting black swamp mana that is forced into you against your will. Somehow it infuses your being and forces you back to life. But now, under the service of the necromancer that has brought you back, just cackling with glee as they stand over you with this blade with black wisps of noxious magical energy just going off of it. And you watch one by one as other angels that you know are brought back in the same way. And you're all turned against the original person you served and used to destroy him. That is epic level flavor. I love it. I love it. Power level? I don't know. I mean, it feels a little bit on the weaker side, but when we're talking power this epic and flavorful, who cares? Not this guy. Let's move on to the next card. We got Geode Rager. Mr. Rager. Kid Cudi would love this one. 2 red and 4 for a 4/3 elemental. It's got first strike and landfall. And its landfall ability is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, goad each creature target player controls. Until your next turn, those creatures attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. This is a really potent ability, honestly. Being able to goad creatures, like even just forcing your opponent to attack you every turn with other creatures is amazing because you get to do the most unfavorable trades for them, where you're like, haha, you've got to swing with all of your guys, unless they have tap abilities to somehow escape what's going on, right? So it's really potent just to be able to force a swing. But when you can force a swing and protect yourself, because that's what it does, it's like, you have to attack that guy or anybody but me if it's like a 4 or more player game. How amazing is that? You're like, can't touch me, and you've got to run in at that guy, thus probably decimating your army, maybe annoying that guy enough to retaliate at you, because in all honesty, Commander politics and vendettas, they do not follow logic half the time. Half the time it's like, oh, you know what? Now, no. For the rest of the night, now I'm going to destroy you. That's the kind of nonsense that happens in Commander. And one of the things, in all honesty, that keeps me away from it, I hate playing irrational Magic, where it's like, dude, why are you blowing up my mana rock when I have 12 mana when he has like an infinite turn engine that's about to be assembled? So for me, I'm like, miss me with that nonsense. But that doesn't mean I can't appreciate the craziness of some of these cards in Commander multiplayer. A Geode Rager seems like it has some real potential. Honestly, casting cost is high. 6 mana is a lot for a 4/3 first striker, it feels like. But the fact that every time you put out a land, like if you can get out something where you're bouncing lands and you've got an Azusa going on, I could see a crazy combo, and that's probably where this gets exciting for Commander players. You put out an Azusa, you get a way to bounce multiple lands, and if you can lay 3 lands a turn in a 4-player game, you can make it so none of your opponents can attack you and have to attack each other every turn, which seems like a crazy, chaotic thing to do, and does feel admittedly very red. The flavor text says, its crystalline core reflects light into chaos. So I guess it just uses like blinding crazy light to invade people's minds and go all chaotic. That's okay. I mean, I see nothing in the artwork to, I mean, I guess the crystalline core is supposed to be the little bits of red that are showing in it. I don't know. I mean, it's a serviceable, it looks like an elemental land shark with a big stupid grin. That kind of makes me like him, where he's kind of galloping forwards with this big dumb grin, like, hey, I'm gonna make everybody fight each other, dude. It's gonna be like one of them saloon battles from a movie, you know, where one guy knocks a bottle over another guy's head and that guy turns around thinking somebody else did it and punched that guy, and then someone's up, don't you punch my woman, and they're all slapping each other and pulling hair, and well, that's not how saloon fights go. Wait a minute. Anyways, this card is okay. It's all right. I would rate this probably as the least exciting out of the cards to me that we've seen, but whatever, man. I'd toss it in the cube just to give it a go, see if it's good enough for a 2-player cube. So those are the Commander spoilers that we got today. Very interesting from my perspective. Let me know your perspective in the comments below. If you like what I'm doing here, like, comment, and subscribe. All great for the channel. YouTube loves that. If you love what I'm doing, jump on my Patreon. And if you want to help me with some dental monies, buy some of my shirts before all my teeth fall out and I change my name to Toothless MTG. Thanks for being here, my friends. Go watch stuff on my Fantasy Geographic channel too, since I'm just peddling everything I'm doing. Whatever. I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm done talking. Goodbye.